Being a singer is one of the most important skills for any piano player. It's all about providing a rock-solid foundation for the vocalist and making sure they feel fully supported. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through my complete approach to creating the perfect accompaniment. One that not only supports, but also lets you add your own personal touch to the music. This is going to be a bit more of a free-form video. I haven't planned this one out as much. We're just going to see what happens. I'm going to take you on the journey with me. We're going to be using the incredible song Stand By Me by Ben E. King, one of my favourite songs of all time. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's dive in. So the first thing I'll always do when I'm creating a new piano accompaniment is get really familiar with the song. Listen to the original song over and over. Understand what makes it work. Obviously with this song, Stand By Me, it's got that incredible bass line, that riff that keeps on going over and over.
When the night has come, and the land
It's iconic, isn't it? Whenever you hear that riff, you immediately know it's this song, Stand By Me, right? And we have a kind of creative decision to make here. Do we include that riff, or do we take it to a slightly different place? I'm thinking of this as a piano and vocal version. Something else I do is I go through on YouTube or Spotify and listen to lots of different versions of the same song and think, how have they tweaked the song to make it different? How have they put their own spin on it? Are they doing more of a direct cover of the original, or are they finding something unique to kind of give their own take on the song? So I've actually done that with this song, and I found an amazing version by Karen Gibson and the Kingdom Choir. I've linked the whole thing down below if you want to go check it out. But let's just have a listen and see how they've tweaked the sound of the song.
when the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we see.
Beautiful voice, amazing.
No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid.
I absolutely love that version of the song. You can see they've given it a bit more of a ballady feel. It's slightly slower, and they're using that pattern all the way through, that rhythmic pattern, that repeated rhythm, which I think works so well. It gives it like an underlying framework for the whole song to sit over, that kind of bed for the singers. I think I'm gonna lift that little rhythm there, that repeated pattern in the right hand. I'm going to take that and I'm going to use that in my own version. Don't think of it as stealing. These things aren't really stealing. They're more adapting, getting inspiration from lots of different places and fusing all these ideas together to create something of your own. The next thing I'd do would be to get familiar with the chord structure, the harmonic framework that the whole song is built around. Now, you could get the chords online, you could look up a chord chart, you could get the sheet music and look at the chords written along the top. You could even try and work them out by ear. There's all sorts of ways that you could kind of get this together. Luckily in this song, the chords are what you might expect because the song is built around the 4 chords that make up so much of popular music. We're in the key of A, and the chords go chord 1, which is an A, going to F sharp minor 7, which is chord 6 in the key of A. Then it goes to chord 4, which is a D, and then it goes to chord 5, which is an E. Those are the chords of the whole song, okay? Pretty much, it just goes round on that loop. So there's a few things I'm doing here. In my right hand, when I'm playing these chords, I'm using inversions. There's the A chord. When I move to F sharp minor 7, I actually keep that A shape in my right hand. I've made a bunch of videos on this, but a great way to think of your minor 7 chords is a major triad over a root note. And I always think of F sharp minor 7 as A over F sharp. So you can see that when we move between those first 2 chords, A and F sharp minor 7, our right hand just stays in the same place. And it gives it some consistency. Okay, do you see that between our chords? Rather than going, or they're a bit more jumpy. It's just a beautiful segue. It's so much smoother. Now, when we go to the D chord from our F sharp minor 7, I'm just going to move my right hand up a little bit to get that D major shape. You see, I haven't jumped up to a root position chord. I'm using inversions in my right hand. I'm plotting a little route for my right hand to go through. And then the original chord in the song is then a 5 chord, which is E. Now, we could play it as a 5 chord. We could play it as a regular E. I'm actually going to tweak it very slightly, and I'm going to make it a 4/5. So we're going to go from D to D over E. And you can hear that. It's just a much softer 5 chord. This chord's used a huge amount in gospel music, lots of different styles, but it's a way of softening your 5 chord. So rather than going, for me, those are all quite stark changes. Listen to the difference now when I use a 4/5. It just softens it very slightly. I'm going to just have a go at playing those chords through with the vocal track.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid.
We're just holding the chords.
I won't be afraid, just as long as you stand by me.
And then the chorus just has the same sequence. All the way through there, I was using inversions in my right hand. And I don't have time to sort of go into all of how I'm sort of doing those inversions right now. But you can go check out this video up here, which is going to basically take you through an entire process for how I think of inversions and how you can get them into your playing. Do go and check that out. I think you'll find it really useful. Now, if you're someone who would like to get more creative at the piano, very shortly, I'm going to be bringing out the Creative Piano Roadmap, which is a fully structured online course. It's got video lessons delivered by me. It comes with a full course workbook, song challenges, assignments, practice exercises. It's a complete framework for learning to play piano in this way. It's been about a year in the making, and I'm so excited to share it with you. If you are interested in hearing more about that when it goes live, you can click the link in the video description to join the waitlist, and you'll be the first to know more details. You can hear we haven't really got any rhythm in there at the moment. It's all quite static and still. So I'm actually going to take the rhythm that we looked at in the Kingdom Choir version and put that over it. So what would that sound like? That rhythm we're doing there, we're pushing on the and of 2. So we're playing on beat 1, and then we're pushing on the and of 2. So it sounds like this: 1, 2, push, 1, 2, push, and 1, 2, push. That's the underlying clave, as it were, that's going underneath the repeated kind of rhythmic pattern that's happening all the way through. So let's put that through all the chords. Just octaves in the left hand for the moment. Sounds quite good. You might be thinking, what am I doing here on my right hand? I'm occasionally smudging up to that note from the second. You see the second of an A chord. There's the first 5 notes of the A major scale. I'm smudging up from the B to the C sharp, really, really quick. And it just gives it a bit more character, a bit more movement, just gives it something else. I did the same thing on the D chord there. Did you see that? I went from the second of D, which is an E, and I just went, rather than playing the whole chord down as one, I went, just gives it a little bit more character. And then because it's D over E coming next, I can do the same thing. And there it is. It's working quite well, I like it. You can see in my left hand, I'm mainly doing octaves, but then I'm occasionally doing this little octave jump between my left hand thumb and my little finger. Watch again. So I kind of play them together first. Together. It's so subtle, right? It's such a simple thing. So often people think they have to do really elaborate left-hand patterns, and you don't. I think of my left hand as a bass player. Bass players play the root notes. You don't want a bass player in a band sort of playing all these insane fills all the time. It's going to disrupt the whole groove. It's going to be far too much. You want your left hand to be like the solidest, greatest bass player in the world, holding down the root notes, almost being like the foundation of everything. Just watch again. There's the jump, then straight down, then the jump, straight down, jump. See, it's beginning to sound good, isn't it? You can kind of imagine this working. For me, my right hand is just sounding a little bit basic. And I think I just want to give it something else. Now, there is a little approach you can use that I think is going to work well here. Sometimes when you want to make something sound better, it isn't necessarily about adding things. It's about taking things away. Check what happens if I take out, for example, on this first chord, this A chord. See what happens when I take out the C sharp. Do you see what happens? It's quite subtle, but for me, it really just opens things up a little bit. We've now just got the root and the fifth, the A and the E. Now let's see what I can do if I can keep that sustained over the F sharp minor 7. Let's try the same thing on the D. Ooh, now that is a nice sound. What have I done there? Well, before we were going to the straight D chord, but what we're doing here is referencing the key. We're referencing the A major key and keeping that over the chord change. So we've almost divided up our hands now. Our right hand is playing the key and our left hand is playing the root notes, okay? This is an approach I use sometimes, particularly when I'm playing a verse of a song, if I want to set something up to go somewhere later down the line in the rest of the song. This is what you want to be doing all the time. It's not about just having, this is what I'm going to play on the verse. You want to create a few choices for yourself that you can use in the moment. So far, I've got the full triad approach, which we looked at the beginning. I've now got the sort of leaner version where I'm playing the key in my right hand and holding onto that key while my left hand changes. Just the root and the fifth of A major. I want to have something else that I can play with. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the seventh of the key as well. I really like this kind of sound. So what do I mean by the seventh? Well, the seventh of A major is actually a G sharp, okay? I'm going to actually, rather than play it up there, I'm going to play it down here. I'm going to use that sort of bear approach where I'm just playing the root and the fifth, but I'm going to occasionally just play with that G sharp. Do you hear that? Doesn't have such a beautiful sound? I'm just playing with that rhythm in my right hand. Gives it a little bit, it gives it just something else, okay? It gives it a new sort of sound world that it can move into. To get those rhythms, I'm locking into the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, which means I'm subdividing all the time in my head. I'm gonna have a go now at playing along with the vocal track and just experimenting with those little patterns we've looked at, okay? And I'll sort of talk you through what I'm doing at the same time. I just want you to see how you go through a creative process to come up with your own thing. And it isn't about coming up with the right thing first time. Have lots and lots of different options that you can choose from. It's the way to do it. Okay, let's give it a go.
When the night has come and the land is dark,
Just keeping it bare for the moment, those open fifths.
is the only light we'll see.
Now I'm gonna add in that little G sharp note.
No, I won't be afraid. Oh, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me.
Let's do the full chords.
So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand
good, doesn't it? I think it's working quite well. It's still going. Okay, there we go. It's working quite well, isn't it? You can see when I got to the chorus there, I wanted a little bit more rhythm to get it going a bit more. So you always want to differentiate your chorus from the verse, okay? So often in songs, the verse sets up the story and the chorus provides that answer. So in this song, he's saying, when the night has gone, what are the actual, I should know the words. What's he saying? He's saying, when the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. It's giving you a beautiful setting, right? You can kind of imagine it. So you need to reflect that in the music with that stillness. And then when the chorus comes, so darling, darling, stand by me, that's where you want it to lift, okay? And the way you can do that is by adding in a little bit more rhythm. I was pretty much keeping the same chord shapes, but I was just adding a little bit of rhythm in my right hand, particularly a tiny bit in my left. My left hand's still functioning like that bass player. And what am I doing there? Well, I'm using my thumb to inject that rhythm. I'm going chord, chord, thumb, 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 chord. You see that? You never want to use the exact rhythm on a like 1 bar loop. I say you never, I don't necessarily mean you never, but I mean, broadly speaking, you'll want to have some variety in there. And that is what makes the music feel like it's flowing more. There is actually also another little trick we can do here. It's when we go from the F sharp minor 7 to the D. Check this out. So we've got when the night has come, then this one, which is nice, and the land is dark, and that one there, moon. Did you see what that was? It's actually an A sus2 over C sharp. I think this is one of the most beautiful voicings. Works really well, and it just lifts us so nicely into the D. The bass basically just moves up by a semitone from the C sharp to the D, and it's a really nice transition, yeah, for us to get into there. It's just a little passing chord, and again, you just build up these little repertoire of tricks. You can see as well occasionally, this last thing on the accompaniment, and then we'll move into some fills, but you can see occasionally I'm using my left-hand thumb as well to give a bit more rhythm. Interestingly, this is something I've just noticed now. Sometimes when you do these tutorials, you notice things about your own playing. I use both of my thumbs to give a bit of rhythm when I'm playing. Do you see this? Watch. I'll play it through again and check out my thumbs. The rhythmic thumbs. It doesn't really matter what you kind of do or what order you do it or how you play it, as long as there's a bit of rhythm in there that's locking into the subdivision, it's going to help propel it along a little bit more. That's what you always want to be thinking in music. You want to be propelling the groove along. And you can see, because I've got that octave in my left hand, this note's holding down the root, that low end. And then it leaves my upper thumb, my left-hand thumb, free to just add in that rhythm. Sounding good. I think it's all beginning to come together. It's like a big melting pot of ideas. It's interesting, all the time when I'm playing this, I'm doing slightly different things. And what I'm trying to do here is give you some creative approaches that you can use. So when you're playing it, you're kind of playing it differently every time depending on how you feel. What this means is when you do then accompany a singer, they want to pull the song around a little bit. They maybe want to get louder in the chorus than they have done previously. You've got some different things that you can do to go with the musician. This is where you begin to move into a slightly different stage of playing, where you're reacting to what's going on in the music rather than just playing what you've learned. It's a lot harder to do it this way in some ways because you have to remember lots of different options, but it's so much more fulfilling because you're really in the moment. Okay, let's just add in one more thing. I've gone through so many things in this video. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some little piano fills. Now, piano fills are a way of bridging the gaps between everything you're playing, okay? Rather than just having the solid chords and the rhythm, you can use piano fills to add in little melodies. Let me give you a demo of what this sounds like with the vocal.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. Oh, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me.
See that?
So darling, darling.
Now, I probably played a few more fills there than I normally would, but I was doing it more as a demo. But you can see how it just fills in the gaps between the vocal line. Now, a really important thing when you're playing piano fills underneath a vocalist is to not crash the vocal. I used to be quite obsessed with local radio when I was quite young. And what they do is they talk right up to where the vocal came in. They'd be like, and now we've got the best mix of the 80s, 90s, and today, and right now it's Jackson 5 with Blame It on the Boogie. And then the vocal will come right in there. What you don't want to do is talk over the vocal. The vocal is the most important thing. And local radio DJs get this. And they also do stuff where they, in the gap between the melody, they'll dim the track and talk in the gap before the vocal comes back in again. They do all these kind of things. So you have to kind of do this as a piano player, right? I've just somehow managed to link local radio DJs with being a piano player. But anyway, what I'm going to show you is how you don't crash the vocal. What you have to do is you have to be aware of where the gaps are in the melody. So if we just look,
when the night
gap,
has come
gap,
and the land is dark
another gap.
and the moon
That's a short gap though.
is the only light we'll see.
Now, there's a lot in that phrase, but there's a long gap here.
No, I won't
Gap.
be afraid. Oh, I won't be afraid.
Little gap.
Just as long
Gap.
as you stand
Gap.
by me.
Do you see that? You have to spot
So darling,
where the gaps are in the vocal, and that is where you can put your piano fills. It doesn't really matter what your piano fills are for the moment. It's just a case of working out roughly where they can go. And piano fills for me aren't things that I necessarily pre-write. They're things that I kind of come up with on the spot using a few kind of ideas. Now, I've done a bunch of different videos on piano fills. There's this one up here, which you can go and check out. And I've also linked one down below as well. So you can go and check all those out. But just to give you an idea, I might just pick 2 notes to start off with, rather than thinking of doing all these elaborate fills that go all the way up and down the piano and sound really, really flowery. You don't necessarily want that. That's going to put the vocalist off a lot. It's going to be, some ways it's going to be putting too much into the music. I'm thinking simple little fills that just propel it along a little bit. I'm going to choose these 2 notes. I'm going to choose the root and fifth again. But rather than playing them down here, I'm going to go up here. Okay, I'm going to go up here an octave higher. That's where we're going to kind of play them. Let me just play the verse, and I'm going to improvise some little fills just using these 2 notes, the A and the E, up higher on the piano. Let's give it a go.
when the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only
Long phrase here.
light we'll see. No, I won't
See that?
be afraid. Oh, I won't be afraid. Just as long
It's a conversation.
as you stand by me. So darling, darling.
I haven't really thought of that before, but it is like a conversation between you and the vocalist. And in all good conversations where people are listening and interacting with each other, there's a question and then an answer. So I often think of the vocal line like the question, and then you respond in the gap with a little answer. And depending on how big that gap is, your answer can be that long. You know, you don't want to be playing over the vocal. Let me give you an example of what it sounds like playing over the vocal, and you'll see how it just disrupts the whole song and takes the attention away from the story, which actually is what the whole song's about, really. We're telling stories as musicians so often.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see.
It's just that's too much. I mean, I'm overdoing it a bit to give you an idea, right? But you want to see, it just doesn't work as well, okay? It's all about having that question and response with the singer, filling in those little gaps, creating those little moments. Okay, I've covered so much in this video, way more than I was planning on covering. I do hope you found it useful. I'm going to have a go at playing through with this track and I'm going to experiment with all of the ideas I've shown you, maybe add in a few extra things in there as well, just so you can see where you can take this. See if you can spot those little approaches I'm using in my right hand, maybe some extra chords, passing chords to add a bit more movement, the rhythms, piano fills in the gaps. See if you can spot it. Let's give it a go.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. Oh, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me.
I'm going to try and change it up here.
If the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, or the mountain should crumble to the sea, I won't cry, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand.
Sneaky one in there.
Stand by me. And darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand now. Stand by me. Stand by me. And darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand now. Stand by me. Stand by me.
Now, to play all these arrangements on the piano, you have to have a really good sense of rhythm, which is why I think you're going to really like this video up here, where I break down my ultimate guide to rhythm patterns. Go give that video a click, and I'll see you over there.